Welcome to another installment of Web Authoring with HTML. I'm your host, Professor Francis Fiske, and I want to jump right in and let's talk about navbars. So before we jump into this, the last two courses are kind of sister courses or brother courses to this course. The first course is grids. Very important to understand how grids work, how the structures of the divs and the calls all come together and make life easier for you. The second piece of the puzzle is spacing. Understanding how margins and paddings work can give you a lot of power in how you define the things you need to do. And lastly, we're going to talk about the navbar. So what's the navbar? How does that work? And what does it mean to you? Well, the navbar itself, and I'm going to update these styles just so they stick, right? Because I want them to stick. And I want these from the last class to be where they need to be. So let me set these up correctly. We're not going to say BG Danger, we're going to say BG Lights because I want it to be a nice gray, and we're going to rename this to navbar. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Alright, and now that should go back to the way it was without all the spacing. Oh no, navbar, our spacing doesn't exist anymore, but navbar does. And there we go. There's our navbar with a polite gray. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we want to make a black navbar. Or I'm sorry, this is our masthead with a polite gray. We're going to make a polite navbar, right? Before we do that, though, let's finish out our masthead. So let's go ahead and add a image here. Now, if I want to add an image, it's not that hard. I can just say, let's go ahead and say, excuse me. I don't want to add it here. I will add my image here so we can make our navbar look somewhat respectable. We'll say source, and I'm going to add an image using the source tag. So I'm going to call 6, no, I'm going to call 3, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to text right, or text left, I should say. I don't know if this is going to work right, but we'll see. And then I'm going to go into my images. I'm going to pull one out. Let's pull the barnacle out. Copy link, put it in there, and then we're gonna say good. Let's see if that sticks. Oh, there we go. There's a barnacle on the left. Now you can remove the padding if you want, you know, and I'll do that so that it doesn't look so bad. I don't want the padding on that. And there you go, the padding went away. There's still some padding to the bottom and the left. Really, if you want to get rid of all that, what you need to say is padding, or P0. I want no padding around that image. And now the gray should go away. There's still some padding on the left here. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can kind of get rid of that. It's not all the way to the left, which is unfortunate. So I need to find out how to get it that way. 1 second. Let's make that work before we move forward. That's what it is. It's not text left. Text left does not exist. It's text start. And now it should be all the way to the left. It did not move. There. It's text start. Now it's all the way to the left. So if I wanted to go text start all the way to the left, text end all the way to the right if I wanted. And I'm going to leave that there because this is kind of what you're going to need going into your assignment for the index.html. But for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to leave the columns where they are. We're going to make a respectable navbar. So how do we make a respectable navbar? Well, it's actually not that hard. You really just need a few things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the div here. I'm going to call it header because I want to quantify where this is. Header is a nice Bootstrap way, a Bootstrap group. Remember I was speaking about groups earlier in the class, about heads and bodies and whatnot. The header is a good group in Bootstrap that allow us to represent what is at the top of the page. In this case, this is saying introductory content for its nearest ancestor section, blah, blah, blah. Just understand that the header is at the top of the page. And in my header, I'll have my masthead, and then I'll have my navbar. So this part at the top is really my masthead, my master header that I use across all of my pages if I wanted. And then underneath that, I would put my navbar. So I'm going to do this in a way that isn't so complicated. I'm going to go into the header, and I'm going to say nav. Now, there are many ways to do this. There are very simple ways to do this. I'm going to use the tried and true methodology of creating the nav, and then in my nav creating a list with list items. And this looks kind of like this. So my nav, and I'm going to use a comment here. So we're going to say, nav bar. And then I'm going to say masthead up here so that I don't get confused. As if that would ever happen. You'd be surprised. And then what I want to do is I want to give my nav bar some specific styles. The first style I want to do is give it a nav bar style, because nav bar is what I'm using. The second style I want to do is I want to make it responsive. So I'm going to say nav bar expand large, so that it expands to the proper size when I have a large viewport, such as like a desktop and whatnot. And when it's not, it's more modular. It looks more like a mobile nav bar. And then I'm going to say BG. I'm not going to say light. I'm going to say dark. And I don't think dark is right. So let me go ahead and make sure that I'm looking at my backgrounds correctly. And there is yeah, it is dark. BG dark. So there is a background documentation. If you want to look it up in Bootstrap, that give you all the backgrounds that you can use if you so desire. So in this case, we're going to say BG dark, and we're going to say text BG dark. Because what will happen is it will change the text to black as needed. Or change the text color based on the backgrounds, the opposite of the background. So in this case, now what I want to do is I want to create a container that is fluid. Now, the first container I created in the masthead was not fluid. In this case, I do want it to be fluid because I want it to change based on the form factor or based on the viewport that my user is ascribing to. So in this case, I'll say fluid. And then I will commence creating my nav. I'll create another div. This div will actually house my list. And I will say class. Now collapse, navbar collapse allows the navigation to look seamless, right? The divs do not override each other. They don't sit on top of each other. They just look seamless across the page. And now we can actually get to putting things into our navbar. So the first thing I can do is I can say UL. A UL is a tag in HTML that means unordered list. You can also have OL. OL means ordered list. Now a unordered list normally has bullets that are not numerical or alphabetic, right? There is no order, it's just a list. A ordered list normally has alphabetical order to it, a numerical order to it, whether that's Roman numerals, whether that's actual numbers, so on and so forth. In this case, we don't really want that. We want Bootstrap to modify the list to its liking, so we're going to say unordered list. And then we're going to say what this actually is. This is the navbar. This is where all the links are going to go. And what I can say is I can have small links across. I can have the first link be huge and the other links be small. In this case, that's what I'm going to do. So the first list item, LI stands for list item, class, I need to make sure that Bootstrap knows that the class, well, this is the navigation item, not just a list item. I'm just going to say list, I didn't put that in the right spot. There we go. Nav item, I'm going to say active. Now the reason why I'm saying active is because I want this specific, I'm sorry, I missed one thing. I said I wanted to put a large item there. So we're going to say a tag class. We're going to brand the navbar brand. This is going to give us that big nav link in the beginning. And we're just going to say, we're going to use the documentation to our advantage. We're going to say navbar. If I save this, I should see a navbar down here. Notice that there's a navbar. It doesn't seem to fit the size of the thing above it. Let's find out why. I believe that's because it's not sitting in a row. So we may need to put this navbar in a row. So let's do that. So it sits in the tabular structure, and it doesn't have its own, oops. It doesn't have its own padding. I want it to share the padding of the masthead. There you go. the row, gave it what we wanted. Navbar is black. We don't want it to be black, so we're going to come in here, and instead of saying text BG dark, we're going to say BG dark text white. Looks like it didn't save. I guess text white's not the call. What is the call? Oh, we'll say BG light, not white. We'll say text light, sorry. One second. That should have worked, actually. Text light and text white should have worked. Oh, I put it on the wrong thing. This needs to be on the... this. There we go. Cool. I had to formally tell the code itself that it needed to contain that specific style directly on the div, or the A tag, I should say. And subsequently, I would need to do that on the list as well. So I'm going to say all list items need to have text light so that we don't have this problem again. Great. Now I'm not going to add a whole lot of things here. I just want to add a few so that you have some context. We're going to add home. And we're going to give this an A tag. So home's going to sit, you know, the text home is going to sit in an A tag. A tags allow us to create links within our page. They're anchor tags, what they're called. And so class, we're going to say navlink. We're going to say active. I'm going to remove active from this one. I put it in the wrong spot. I'm going to say and then we're going to say href. Now, href is how we would link the page, right? So if I said href and I used the link that would get us to these other pages, it would take me there. But if I use hashtag or if I use £, depending on how old you are, it won't go anywhere. It'll stay on the same page. So let's refresh it so I can prove that to you. Now there's a home tag here with a really bad lighting to it. So we're going to give it text light because apparently that didn't work. There, it lightened up, and as you can see, home exists. If I click it, you can see here the £, or the hashtag applied to the link, and because of that, it does not navigate you away from the actual page. Great. If I wanted to navigate away from the page and put another link in here, that's just as easy as coming in and creating a new list item in the list and say, hey, I want to get back to some other place. So obviously that's not the home page, right? That's another page. So we're going to say index.html is the home page because home exists in and we'll say another link, right? And then we'll just be daft and do this just so I can show you the way this works. There. So if I click this refresh, there's two links here, home and another link. If I click home, it'll take me to the index.html as it was supposed, as it should. And if I click another link, it'll take me external to google.com. Very nice. And there you go. That's the way anchor tags work within the links. And as far as we're concerned, that's pretty much the end of the road, right? Well, not really. So there's one more thing I want to show you as far as being able to modify the color schematics of specific elements and components within Bootstrap. You don't necessarily have to use the built-in Bootstrap colors. You can use whatever color you want as long as you can derive it from three specific things. The first thing is a hex value. So what's a hex value? It is not some Wiccan stuff. A hex value is a fancy way to create color schematics within your within your page. Now, if I share my screen, you can see here that these hex values here can change the way the color is observed by the end user in the page. In this case, FF5733 is the hex value associated with the specific color that this button is displaying here. As such, like I said, there's 3 ways you can display color or to use color in your page. You can use the hex value, you can use the RGB value, red, green, blue, or you can use what's called the HSL value. Now, out of all 3 of those values, the HSL value gives you the most power because the HSL value allows you to decide what your hue, saturation, and I forget what the L stands for. The L stands for what exactly? I don't remember. Hue, saturation, and there's one more. But the L actually changes the opacity. It's not called opacity, but it changes the transparency of the actual color. As you can see here, a lot of these colors you've probably seen before. Colors are a big deal when you're doing web design because colors and the way they match make for a much more fruitful user experience, and they can raise your acceptance, your user acceptance on your website. In the work that we do, we use HSL. So, to give you a bit of a head start, if I wanted to change the background of this nav bar to something other than a built-in nav color, as you can see here, BG Dark, I can add a style directly to this tag. And I can say I want to do an inline style, and for the sake of all of our senses, I'm going to steal a style that is actually in your assignment. And I'm going to put it in this place here. This is an HSL. This is an HSL style, and I'm going to inline style it here. Now let's talk about what you're seeing at the moment. This says color. We don't want color. This is an actual CSS style. Color will change the color of the text in that specific element, but we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to change the background color. So we're going to say background color. As you can see, the IntelliSense for this specific, and I'm losing my light, but the IntelliSense for this specific element, it gives us many background positions, right? Or many background elements. In this case, the background element that we're looking for, my screens are just going wild right now. So 1 second, let me modify and fix. I'm losing my chroma. There we go. So one of the things that you'll run into is that you will need to define what background you want to change. In this case, I don't want to change the background image. You can put in a background image in your CSS styles, the background position of that image. You can repeat the image. You can change the size of the background. You can put an attachment. We're not doing all of that. We just want to change the color. So if I change the background color, I would have my key background color, and then I would have my value, the HSL that I've already provided in the assignment. And then I'll go to the NavBar course, and I will see this should change from black to green. Did I not save it? Does it still have BG Dark? It does. Let's remove BG Dark so it doesn't override what we're trying to do. And there it is. It changed to green. Now, for all intents and purposes, you need to do that for your masthead, but I didn't want to do it for the masthead. I want you to figure that one out on your own. Well, either way, it's been fun. I've had a lot of fun with you guys talking about spacing, talking about grids, talking about background colors. And so, as I say in all my classes, I want you to have some luck. Have fun. Talk to you next time. Ciao.